In the heart of Charleston, South Carolina, Beatrice Thompson, a revered matriarch, passed away on a rainy autumn night, leaving behind not just a vast fortune, but a complex legacy. Her 3 children, Lucas, Peter, and Sophia, gathered at the family mansion, each with different expectations. The reading of Beatrix's will reveal unexpected challenges, testing their courage, intelligence, and integrity. As the siblings navigated these trials, long-buried rivalries and truths emerged, leading to a shocking revelation that would forever change their lives. Lucas, who remained true to his mother's values, ultimately inherited the fortune, while Peter and Sophia learned valuable lessons about honesty and hard work. Through this journey, the Thompson family found a new sense of unity, honoring Beatrix's legacy in ways they never imagined. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. On a stormy autumn evening, the Thompson family lost their matriarch, Beatrice Thompson, a woman whose legacy was as vast as the fortune she left behind. The rain poured relentlessly, as if the heavens themselves wept for her passing, a tribute to a life that had touched so many in Charleston, South Carolina. At 82 years old, Beatrice's life had been a testament to the strength, resilience, and unwavering determination, qualities that endeared her to everyone who had the privilege of knowing her. Beatrix's journey was not an easy one. As a young woman, she found herself raising her first son, Lucas, alone after a love that faded into a distant memory. But Beatrice, never one to succumb to the harsh whispers of society, held her head high and worked tirelessly to provide Lucas with a life of dignity. The judgmental stares and quiet gossip of others only fueled her resolve, making her a beacon of strength in a world that often sought to break her. Her life took a turn when she met Robert Thompson, a successful businessman whose heart was captured by Beatrix's unyielding spirit. Their love blossomed, leading to a marriage that brought 2 more children into the world, Peter and Sophia. Their relationship was the stuff of fairy tales, marked by mutual respect and deep affection, but it was tragically cut short when Robert died in a car accident, leaving Beatrice to shoulder the weight of the world alone once more. Despite the heartbreak, life marched on. Lucas, ever the reflection of his mother's grit, left home to carve his path, while Peter and Sophia remained close, basking in the luxury that Beatrix's hard work had provided. Years passed, and as the rain fell heavily on a somber day, the news of Beatrix's death spread through the town like wildfire. Her passing was met with a profound mix of sorrow and speculation, as people whispered about the fate of her immense wealth. Yet it was not only her fortune that defined her. Beatrix was a pillar of the community, admired for her philanthropic endeavors and her fierce, unbreakable spirit. The day after her death, the family's lawyer, Mr. Armstrong, began the grim task of organizing the reading of her will. Beatrice, always meticulous, had left explicit instructions for her children to gather at her grand mansion, a historic estate that stood as a testament to the life she had built. The mansion, with its towering columns and sprawling gardens, loomed large, a silent witness to the family's impending reckoning. Lucas, now a man of 45, received the news with a heavy heart. His bond with Beatrice had always been special, forged in the fires of hardship and sacrifice. As he listened to Mr. Armstrong on the phone, his eyes fell on an old photograph of his mother cradling him as a baby. "She was a warrior until the very end," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, as memories of her strength flooded back. Peter and Sophia, however, reacted differently. Upon hearing of their mother's death, their minds immediately turned to the inheritance. "What did she leave us?" Sophia asked, her voice tinged with greedy anticipation. Peter, nodding in agreement, added, "I hope she was fair. We deserve what's ours." The Thompson mansion, usually a symbol of opulence, seemed to take on a mournful air under the darkened sky. The drizzle that fell from the heavens only added to the somber atmosphere, mirroring the storm of emotions brewing within the family. Lucas was the first to arrive, pulling up in his modest car, a stark contrast to the wealth that surrounded him. As he stepped out, he paused, taking in the mansion with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. "I hope you found peace, Mom," he murmured, his heart heavy with loss as he approached the grand entrance. Not long after Peter arrived, his sports car roaring into the driveway, breaking the quiet with its powerful engine. He exited the car with an air of impatience, his expensive suit a sharp contrast to Lucas's simple attire. "I hope this doesn't take long," Peter muttered under his breath, glancing at his watch with irritation. The idea of spending time on anything that didn't involve money or status was something Peter could barely tolerate. As the siblings gathered at the mansion, each carried their burdens, their emotions as varied as the rain that fell around them. The stage was set for a confrontation, one where the true value of Beatrix's legacy would be revealed not in the wealth she left behind, but in the hearts and minds of those she had loved the most. Sophia arrived not long after, her entrance marked by the arrival of an equally opulent car. As she stepped out, her every movement exuded grace and sophistication, yet her eyes betrayed a steely ambition that gleamed beneath her polished exterior. Approaching Peter, she asked with a calculating tone, "Peter, do you think Mom left us something truly significant?" Peter, his expression indifferent, shrugged and responded, "I certainly hope so. We've earned it, haven't we?" Inside the grand mansion, the air was thick with tension, nearly suffocating. Lucas was already seated in the elegantly furnished living room, his demeanor calm yet alert. He knew all too well that this gathering would be anything but peaceful. Peter and Sophia had always treated him as an outsider, someone who didn't quite belong in their world of wealth and privilege. Peter's voice, dripping with condescension, broke the silence. "Lucas, I see you're eager to discover what you'll get out of this," he said, his tone a mix of disdain and forced civility. Lucas, maintaining his composure, replied steadily, "I'm here to honor our mother's memory, Peter. Whatever she has decided, I will accept with grace." Sophia, her lips curling into a sardonic smile, added, "Always the saint, aren't you, Lucas? Let's see if your righteousness pays off today." Before the siblings could exchange further barbs, Mr. Armstrong, the family's long-serving lawyer, entered the room, bringing with him an air of gravitas. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice rich with authority. "I understand that this is a difficult time for all of you, but we must proceed with your mother's final wishes." He gestured towards the plush leather sofas. "Please, take your seats. We will begin the reading of the will." As they settled into the seats, the room seemed to pulse with the weight of their emotions, hope, greed, resentment, all surfacing in this moment of truth. The house, a repository of countless memories, seemed almost alive, its walls whispering tales of the past, while old grudges and sibling rivalries simmered just below the surface. Lucas gazed around the room, his thoughts drifting to the warm, joyful moments he had once cherished in this very space. In stark contrast, Peter and Sophia's thoughts were fixated on the potential windfall, their eyes gleaming with the anticipation of adding to their already substantial fortunes. The reading of the will was destined to be a pivotal moment, one that promised not just the revelation of Beatrice's final wishes, but the inevitable clash of deeply rooted emotions. Each sibling was acutely aware that by the end of the day, their lives could be irrevocably altered. Mr. Armstrong, ever the picture of professionalism, adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat, preparing to deliver the words that would either solidify or shatter the bonds of family. The living room, usually a space of comfort, now felt like the stage for a drama of epic proportions. Lucas sat quietly, his face a mask of calm that belied the storm of emotions within. Peter, unable to mask his impatience, drummed his fingers on the arm of the sofa, his mind racing through the possibilities of what lay ahead. Sophia, ever the strategist, maintained her cool, calculated demeanor, her thoughts focused on how she could maneuver through whatever was about to unfold. "Good morning, everyone," Mr. Armstrong began again, his voice carrying the weight of the occasion. We are gathered here to honor the final wishes of your mother, Beatrice Thompson. Before we proceed, let me extend my deepest condolences for the loss of such a remarkable woman." Lucas offered a solemn nod, appreciating the lawyer's respect for his mother. Peter and Sophia, however, exchanged a glance that spoke volumes of their impatience. Peter, ever the blunt one, cut through the silence, his voice sharp. "Let's cut to the chase, Mr. Armstrong. What did our mother leave for us?" The lawyer, unfazed by Peter's brashness, met his gaze with a stern expression before continuing. "Beatrice was a woman of foresight and wisdom," he said. "She understood that dividing her estate could lead to discord. To prevent this, she devised 2 challenges that each of you must complete. The outcome of these challenges will determine who inherits her fortune." The room fell into a deeper silence, the only sound being the persistent patter of rain against the windows. The siblings exchanged glances, some filled with curiosity, others with apprehension, as they realized that the next few moments would set the course for the rest of their lives. "Challenges," Sophia's voice rang out, laced with disbelief. "This is utterly absurd. We are her children. We should simply split the inheritance, as any family would." Peter, nodding in agreement, added with a scoff, "Exactly. There's no need for us to jump through hoops. This is an insult to us." Trying to maintain his composure, Lucas intervened, his tone steady but firm. "If these were our mother's wishes, then we must respect them. She wouldn't have done this without a good reason." Mr. Armstrong, unfazed by their protests, continued with an air of authority. "These challenges were meticulously crafted to assess the intelligence and integrity of each of you. Beatrice believed that her wealth should only be passed on to someone who embodies these qualities." Peter snorted, his arms crossing defensively over his chest. "This is ridiculous. I'm her son. I shouldn't have to prove anything to anyone." Sophia, her expression cold and dismissive, added, "And what exactly are these challenges? What are we expected to do?" Mr. Armstrong retrieved an envelope from his briefcase, pulling out a document with deliberate care. He began reading aloud, his voice steady. "The first challenge will take place in dark rooms. Each of you must choose between 3 boxes. 2 contain venomous creatures, while 1 is empty. The first to find the empty box without being bitten will win this challenge." Peter and Sophia exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier confidence shaken. Meanwhile, Lucas remained deep in thought, trying to decipher the purpose behind such an unusual test. "And the second challenge?" Lucas inquired, his curiosity piqued as he sought to understand the reasoning behind his mother's tests. "The second challenge," Mr. Armstrong explained, "will be a mirror maze. You must navigate your way to the exit in the shortest time possible. These challenges are not just about courage, they are also designed to test your intelligence and your ability to make sound decisions under pressure." Sophia rolled her eyes in exasperation. "What a waste of time. But if this is what we have to do to claim what's ours, then let's just get it over with." Peter, still fuming, muttered under his breath, "I hope this doesn't drag on. I have more important things to do." Lucas, however, felt a renewed sense of determination building within him. He realized that these challenges were far more than arbitrary tests. They were his mother's final lessons, a way for her to instill in them the values she held dear. "I'm ready," Lucas declared with resolve, his voice firm. "Let's begin." Mr. Armstrong nodded approvingly, pleased by Lucas's response. "Very well. We will proceed with the first challenge. May luck guide each of you." The tension in the room thickened as the siblings rose from their seats, bracing themselves for the trials that lay ahead. Each one understood that these challenges were not just about winning an inheritance, they were about proving their worth. And by the time they were through, the future of Beatrix's legacy and their own lives would be forever altered. The siblings, led by Mr. Armstrong and his assistants, were guided through the shadowy, seldom visited corridors of the Thompson mansion. The path they followed led to a long-forgotten wing of the estate, where 3 ominous rooms awaited. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the relentless drumming of the rain against the ancient windows amplifying the sense of foreboding. The walls, adorned with faded, centuries-old tapestries, seemed to swallow up any sound, creating an eerie, almost suffocating silence that pressed down on them from all sides. "Each of you will enter a different room," Mr. Armstrong instructed, his voice cutting through the oppressive silence. He held a flashlight, its beam casting long, wavering shadows that danced unsettlingly across the walls. "Let me reiterate the rules of this challenge. Inside each room are 3 boxes. 2 contain venomous creatures, and 1 is empty. Your task is to find the empty box, and thus win the challenge." Peter, still simmering with frustration, sneered, "This is absurd. How does picking a box prove anything about our intelligence?" His voice dripped with contempt as he shot a glare at the lawyer. Sophia, her usually composed demeanor faltering, voiced her fears. "And what if we get bitten? This is far too dangerous." Mr. Armstrong's tone was unyielding as he responded, "There are antidotes prepared, and a medical team is on standby. However, this challenge is about more than just physical courage. It's about mental fortitude and the ability to think critically, just as your mother intended." Lucas, maintaining his calm, looked at his siblings with a mix of empathy and determination. "Let's just do what needs to be done. Our mother wouldn't have put us through this without a good reason." One by one, they were led to their respective rooms. As Lucas entered his room, a chill ran down his spine, the cold, damp air clinging to his skin. The darkness was absolute, so thick he could barely make out his hand when he held it in front of his face. Slowly, he began to feel his way around the room, his fingers eventually brushing against the 3 boxes. "Think, Lucas, think," he whispered to himself. He knew his mother's mind. She was far too clever to set a straightforward trap. There had to be more to this challenge than met the eye. It was then that an idea struck him, a flash of insight that felt almost like a message from beyond. In the adjacent room, Peter was fuming, his impatience getting the better of him. "This is a colossal waste of time," he muttered angrily, reaching out and yanking open one of the boxes without a second thought. A sharp, searing pain shot through his hand as a scorpion struck, its sting sending a jolt of agony up his arm. His scream of pain echoed down the dark corridor, filled with anger and disbelief. "Damn it, that hurts." Meanwhile, in the 3rd room, Sophia's nerves were fraying. She stood trembling in the darkness, her heart pounding in her chest. "I can't do this," she whispered, fear clawing at her resolve. But the thought of losing the inheritance pushed her forward. With trembling hands, she opened a box, only to feel the sharp, immediate bite of a snake. Panic overtook her as she cried out, "Help! I've been bitten." Despite the sounds of his siblings suffering, Lucas remained composed, his mind racing with thoughts of his mother's intentions. He moved toward the door, pushing it gently, and to his surprise, it swung open easily. Of course, he thought, a sense of clarity washing over him. Mom wanted us to think beyond the obvious, to not just focus on what was right in front of us without hesitation. He stepped out into the corridor, finding Mr. Armstrong waiting there. Mr. Armstrong met Lucas's eyes with a look of approval, recognizing that Lucas had understood the true nature of the test. As they stood there in the dimly lit hallway, the sounds of the storm outside seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the weight of the moment. The challenge was not just about choosing the right box, it was about understanding the lessons Beatrix had instilled in them all their lives, lessons about thinking critically, acting with caution, and finding the courage to go against the grain. "You did it, Lucas," Mr. Armstrong said, a proud smile playing on his lips. "You passed the first challenge with flying colors." Meanwhile, Peter and Sophia, both in evident pain from their injuries, were quickly attended to by the lawyer's assistants. Peter, his face twisted in anger and discomfort, glared at Lucas. "How did you get out so fast?" Lucas remained calm, his voice steady as he replied, "The door was never locked. Mom wanted us to think beyond the obvious, beyond the boxes." Sophia, still trembling from the shock of her ordeal, whispered, "This is insane. How did we not see it?" Mr. Armstrong, taking in the scene with a measured gaze, spoke up. This was just the beginning. Your mother wanted you to learn to look past appearances and to use your wits, especially under pressure. Now, let's move on to the next challenge. The siblings, though shaken, knew deep down that the next test would push them even further. The tension among them was palpable, thickening the air in the mansion, which seemed to hold its breath, its ancient walls bearing witness to the unfolding drama of Beatrice's final wishes. Mr. Armstrong, his tone grave, announced the second challenge. Your next task is to navigate a mirror maze. The one who finds the exit in the shortest time will be declared the winner of this challenge. Peter and Sophia exchanged knowing looks as they approached the entrance of the maze. Peter leaned in close, his voice a low whisper filled with malice. We need to make sure Lucas doesn't win this time. A sly grin spread across his face. Let's mark the correct path and mess with some of the mirrors to throw him off. Sophia, her resolve hardening, nodded in agreement. Leave it to me. We'll make sure it looks like a simple mistake. Unaware of their scheming, Lucas focused on the task at hand, his mind set on winning fairly. I'm ready, he declared with confidence. Peter was the first to enter the labyrinth of reflective glass. Moving cautiously, he left subtle marks on the mirrors, small scratches that would guide him back through the maze. After several minutes, he found the exit, emerging with a smug look of satisfaction. Good luck, Sophia, he called out, giving his sister a conspiratorial wink. Sophia entered the maze next, carefully following the trail Peter had left. As she progressed, she began to manipulate the mirrors, tilting some to create misleading paths and dead ends. This should slow him down just enough. She muttered to herself, completing the challenge in a record time and exiting with a triumphant smile. Finally, it was Lucas's turn. Entering the maze, he moved with determination, but it wasn't long before he sensed something was off. These mirrors. Something's wrong, he murmured to himself. He followed the marks as best he could, but soon found himself repeatedly walking into dead ends, the paths twisting and turning in ways that made no sense. Damn it, this isn't adding up, he muttered, frustration beginning to creep into his voice. The maze seemed to close in around him, the reflections distorting his perception, making it harder to distinguish between reality and illusion. Every turn led to more confusion, and the realization hit him his siblings had sabotaged the challenge. But instead of giving in to panic, Lucas took a deep breath, centering himself. Think, Lucas, he whispered, closing his eyes for a moment to block out the disorienting reflections. You know there's always a way out. Opening his eyes, he began to move again, this time ignoring the marks and relying on his instincts. He focused on the subtle clues: airflow, the faint sound of the rain outside, the way the light hit the mirrors. Slowly but surely, he began to unravel the maze's deceptions, finding the true path to the exit. As he finally emerged from the maze, slightly disheveled but victorious, he was met with the astonished faces of Peter and Sophia. Mr. Armstrong looked at Lucas with a mixture of admiration and respect. Well done, Lucas. You've shown not just intelligence but resilience. Your mother would be proud. Peter and Sophia, though outwardly composed, exchanged uneasy glances. They had underestimated their brother, and the realization stung. The games they had played were meant to ensure their victory, but Lucas had managed to rise above their pettiness. The mansion, with its rich history and silent echoes of the past, bore witness to the siblings' trials and the shifting dynamics between them. As they prepared for the final challenge, each knew that their mother's inheritance was no longer just about wealth, it was about proving who truly embodied the values Beatrice had lived by. And in that moment, they all understood that the real test had just begun. Outside the mansion, Peter and Sophia watched with smug satisfaction, their laughter echoing through the rain-soaked air. He'll never make it out, Peter chuckled, his eyes gleaming with malicious delight. Inside the maze, Lucas was feeling the full weight of their betrayal. Each turn led him to another dead end, the altered mirrors playing tricks on his senses. Frustration and despair began to seep into his bones. "This is impossible," he muttered, his voice tinged with desperation. The walls of the maze seemed to close in on him, the air growing thick with tension. Finally, his frustration boiled over, and he cried out, "Someone help me, I'm stuck." Mr. Armstrong, hearing Lucas's plea for help, quickly activated the rescue team. "Let's get him out of there," he instructed, his expression tinged with concern. Within moments, the team had located Lucas and guided him out of the disorienting labyrinth. When Lucas was finally rescued, he emerged visibly shaken, his face pale, and his eyes wide with a mix of anger and disbelief. "They cheated," he declared, his voice steady as he stared directly at Peter and Sophia. "I know you did something to sabotage me." Peter, masking his guilt with a sly grin, responded smoothly, "We don't know what you're talking about, Lucas. Maybe you're just not as good at these challenges as you think." Sophia, her expression innocent and serene, added, "Yes, Lucas, sometimes you just have to accept that you can't always win." Mr. Armstrong, watching the interaction, sensed the undercurrent of deception, but chose to hold his tongue for the moment. "Let's move on to the final announcement," he said, leading the siblings back to the grand meeting room. As they reconvened, the tension in the room was palpable. Peter and Sophia were eager, their eyes fixed on the papers that would confirm them as the heirs to Beatrix's immense fortune. Lucas, though defeated in the maze, remained resolute, his mind racing with thoughts of how to expose the truth. Mr. Armstrong began organizing the documents on the large oak table, his demeanor as professional as ever. "All right, we are now ready for the signing of the inheritance documents," he announced, his voice echoing in the silent room. "Peter and Sophia, please step forward." Peter, feeling triumphant, eagerly picked up the pen. "Finally, all of this will be ours," he whispered to Sophia, who nodded, her eyes glittering with greedy satisfaction. But just as Peter moved to sign his name, the door to the room suddenly burst open with a loud bang. A tall, imposing man with a commanding presence strode into the room, his eyes blazing with intensity. "Stop immediately," he ordered, his voice cutting through the room like a knife. All eyes turned to him, their expressions ranging from shock to confusion. "Who are you?" Mr. Armstrong asked, his voice laced with surprise and uncertainty. "My name is Michael," the man replied, his tone firm as he approached the table. "I was a close friend of Beatrice, and she entrusted me with ensuring that her inheritance was distributed fairly and justly." Peter and Sophia exchanged panicked glances, their earlier confidence beginning to falter. "What are you doing here?" Peter demanded, his voice wavering as he tried to maintain his composure. Michael ignored the question, his focus unwavering as he placed a laptop on the table. "I have evidence that will reveal the truth about the events that have transpired here today," he declared, his voice filled with authority. Beatrice anticipated that there might be attempts to undermine her wishes, and she took steps to ensure that her legacy would be honored. The room fell into a tense silence as Michael opened the laptop and began to play a series of videos. The footage clearly showed Peter and Sophia tampering with the maze, their every move recorded and documented. As the evidence played out, Peter and Sophia's faces drained of color, their earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of their exposed deceit. Mr. Armstrong, now fully understanding the gravity of the situation, turned to Lucas with a look of deep respect. "Lucas," he said solemnly, "it seems you were right. The truth has come to light, and justice will be served." Peter, his voice barely a whisper, tried to protest. "This isn't fair." But Michael silenced him with a stern look. "Fairness is exactly what your mother wanted. She knew that true worth isn't found in wealth or power, but in character and integrity. And today that lesson has been proven." With the evidence laid bare, Mr. Armstrong made the final decision. "Lucas, you have demonstrated the qualities that your mother valued most: honesty, courage, and intelligence. The inheritance will be rightfully yours." The room was filled with a heavy silence as the reality of the situation settled in. Peter and Sophia, their scheming exposed, were left to face the consequences of their actions. Lucas, though still processing the events, felt a deep sense of vindication and a renewed connection to the values his mother had instilled in him. As the proceedings came to an end, the mansion that had once been filled with tension and deceit now seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its secrets finally revealed, and its legacy secured in the hands of the rightful heir. "I have undeniable evidence that Peter and Sophia cheated in the challenges," Michael declared, his voice steady as he connected the laptop to a projector. The room grew tense, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. "That's absurd," Sophia exclaimed, her voice trembling slightly as she tried to mask her rising panic. "You can't prove anything." But Michael remained unfazed. He clicked on a video file, and the images began to play on the wall, casting a harsh light on the siblings' deceit. The footage clearly showed Peter marking the mirrors in the maze, while Sophia was seen altering the positions of the mirrors to deliberately confuse Lucas. Their voices, whispering conspiratorial plans, were crystal clear and unmistakable. "This is a setup," Peter shouted, his desperation bleeding into his voice. "This can't be real." Michael turned his piercing gaze to Peter and Sophia, his expression stern. "Beatrice anticipated that you might try something underhanded. She asked me to oversee the challenges and ensure that the truth would prevail. She had cameras installed in the areas where the tests would take place." As the realization of their mother's foresight settled in, Lucas, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "I knew something was wrong. You've never played fair, not even with your own family." Mr. Armstrong, who had been listening intently, was visibly taken aback by the betrayal Peter and Sophia had committed against their brother. Sophia, her voice quivering, attempted to defend their actions. "But we only wanted to honor our mother, to claim our share of the inheritance. We knew Lucas was the smartest, and we didn't think we stood a chance otherwise." "Honor our mother," Lucas interrupted, his voice thick with emotion. "You dishonored her memory by cheating and conspiring against me. That's not how you honor someone's legacy." Mr. Armstrong nodded in agreement with Lucas, his expression grave. "Beatrice knew that true wealth isn't measured by money alone, but by integrity and character. She wanted her inheritance to go to someone who would uphold her values, someone who would continue her legacy fairly and honestly." And Michael, addressing everyone in the room, added, "And that person is Lucas. He has proven himself to be worthy of Beatrice's trust and love. The inheritance will be his, as per her wishes. I will now read the will to confirm your mother's intent." The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone present. Peter and Sophia, their faces pale and their spirits crushed, finally began to grasp the full extent of their actions and the profound implications of their mother's true intentions. Mr. Armstrong, with a solemn air, held the will in his hands, the document that would officially seal the fate of the Thompson estate. As the final words were read aloud, it was clear to everyone that Beatrice had always known what was in the hearts of her children. Her legacy, entrusted to Lucas, would continue in the hands of the one who had shown the true qualities she valued most: honesty, strength, and unwavering integrity. The room, which had once been a battleground of greed and deception, was now filled with the quiet understanding that justice had been served, and Beatrix's memory honored in the way she had always intended. As Mr. Armstrong began to read from Beatrix's will, his voice resonated through the room, each word carrying the weight of her final wishes. "I, Beatrice Thompson, declare that my fortune should be inherited by someone honest and pure-hearted, someone who can continue my legacy with integrity and justice." Peter and Sophia, sitting side by side, exchanged nervous glances, the reality of their situation beginning to dawn on them. Lucas, his heart pounding in his chest, listened intently, feeling as though his mother's spirit was present, guiding him through this moment. Mr. Armstrong continued, his tone unwavering. If any of my children act dishonestly during the challenges, they will be disqualified and will not be entitled to the inheritance. A heavy silence filled the room as Mr. Armstrong read on. Therefore, due to their actions during the challenges, Peter and Sophia are disqualified. The inheritance will be granted to Lucas, who has proven himself worthy of his mother's trust and love. Lucas, overwhelmed with emotion, rose slowly to his feet, tears welling in his eyes. I don't know what to say. Mom always taught me to be fair and honest. I promised her I would honor her memory, and I intend to use this inheritance for noble causes, helping those who need it most. Peter, unable to contain his anger, erupted. This is unfair. We are her children too, his voice echoed with a mixture of rage and desperation. Sophia, her voice choked with emotion, pleaded, Lucas, please think of us. We're your family. Lucas turned to his siblings, his expression both firm and compassionate. I am thinking of you, he said softly, but I am also thinking of what is right. Mom wanted this inheritance to be used for good, and that is exactly what I intend to do. Mr. Armstrong, with a finality that left no room for doubt, concluded, the decision has been made. Lucas is the sole heir to Beatrix's fortune. The room fell into a deep silence, the weight of Beatrice's words sinking into everyone's hearts. Lucas, now the legitimate heir, felt the gravity of his new responsibility, but he also felt the profound honor of carrying on his mother's legacy with the dignity and love she had instilled in him. With the full weight of his mother's fortune now in his hands, Lucas dedicated himself to transforming her wealth into a force for good. True to his promise, he chose not to leave anything to his siblings, who had shown no regard for fairness or integrity, instead resorting to deceit in their attempt to claim the inheritance. Lucas understood that to honor his mother's memory, he needed to invest in the causes he believed would build a better, more just society. Let's make a difference. Just as Mom always wanted, he would say to his collaborators, his voice filled with determination. He founded schools in underprivileged communities, providing quality education to children who had been denied access to learning. Education is the key to a better future, Lucas would declare at each school's inauguration, a hopeful smile lighting up his face. In addition to education, Lucas established free health clinics, ensuring that essential medical care was available to those who could not afford it. No one should be deprived of basic health care. He stated firmly, as he cut the ribbon at yet another clinic, his resolve to improve lives evident in every gesture. Lucas also launched community support programs, including professional training centers and entrepreneurship initiatives. I want everyone to have the opportunity to thrive, he explained, his words inspiring both the young and old to pursue new opportunities and build better lives for themselves. As years passed, Lucas witnessed the fruits of his labor taking root and blossoming. The schools, clinics, and community centers he had established became beacons of hope and progress, a living testament to his mother's vision. Meanwhile, Peter and Sophia, who had squandered their opportunities and the wealth they had inherited, found themselves facing financial hardship. Their lavish lifestyles, built on the shaky foundation of greed, had crumbled, leaving them with little to fall back on. One day, driven by desperation and regret, Peter and Sophia decided to approach Lucas, hoping to seek his help. They arrived at his office, their once proud faces now lined with the weariness of their struggles. As they stood before Lucas, they realized that the brother they had once tried to deceive was now their last hope. Lucas, seeing the condition of his siblings, felt a complex mix of emotions: compassion for their plight, sadness for the choices they had made, and a deep sense of responsibility for the values his mother had instilled in him. He listened as they explained their situation, their voices filled with regret and desperation. Peter spoke first, his tone subdued. Lucas, we made mistakes. We know that now, but we're struggling. We need your help. Sophia, her voice barely above a whisper, added, We're sorry, Lucas. We didn't see it then, but we see it now. We understand why Mom trusted you." Lucas looked at them, his heart heavy with the weight of the past. He knew that this was a moment where he could continue his mother's legacy of compassion and forgiveness. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I'll help you," he said. "But you need to understand that this is not just about money. It's about changing your lives, about learning from the past and building something better." Peter and Sophia, humbled and grateful, nodded in agreement. They realized that the true inheritance their mother had left behind was not in the wealth she had accumulated, but in the values she had lived by, values that Lucas had embraced and now offered to them as a way forward. With Lucas's guidance, Peter and Sophia began to rebuild their lives, this time with a focus on meaningful contributions and personal growth. The siblings, once divided by greed and deceit, slowly found their way back to each other, united by a new understanding of what truly mattered. In the end, Beatrix's legacy lived on, not just in the schools, clinics, and programs Lucas had established, but in the hearts of her children, who finally understood the true meaning of wealth, love, and family. "Lucas, we need to talk," Peter said hesitantly as he stepped into his brother's office, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Sophia, her eyes filled with regret, added, "We're going through a really tough time, Lucas. Can you help us financially?" Lucas, seated behind his desk, gazed at his siblings with a mixture of compassion and understanding. "I can see you're struggling," he began gently, "but simply giving you money won't solve your problems in the long run." Peter, frustration evident in his voice, asked, "Then what do you suggest?" Lucas smiled warmly, offering them hope. "I want to allow you to work at my company. This way you can learn new skills and earn what you need honestly, through your efforts." Sophia, surprised by his generosity, asked, "Would you do that for us?" "Yes," Lucas replied firmly. "I want you to learn the value of hard work and to build something meaningful for yourselves. Mom always believed in the power of honest work, and so do I." Moved by his sincerity, Peter and Sophia accepted the offer. "Thank you, Lucas. We promise we won't let you down," they said, their voices filled with newfound determination. Lucas nodded, feeling a sense of satisfaction. "Let's start this new journey together. There's so much more we can achieve, and I want us to do it as a family." And so Peter and Sophia began their new chapter, working alongside Lucas in his companies, gradually learning the importance of integrity and hard work. The family, despite their past differences, found a renewed sense of unity, bonded by Beatrix's legacy and Lucas's unwavering commitment to doing good. On their first day of work, Lucas greeted them at the company's entrance with a welcoming smile. "Welcome aboard. I'm glad you decided to take this step," he said, extending his hand to each of them. Peter, still somewhat skeptical but willing to try, shook Lucas's hand. "Thank you, Lucas. We'll do our best." Sophia, her voice filled with determination, added, "Yes, we're ready to learn and change." Lucas led them through the office, introducing them to their new colleagues and explaining their roles. "Peter, you'll start in the logistics department. It's a role that requires organization and attention to detail. Sophia, you'll be working in the marketing sector, where your creativity will be a great asset." The first few days were challenging. Peter, who had always been accustomed to an easy life, found it difficult to adapt to the demands of the job. "This is harder than I thought," he admitted to Lucas during a coffee break. Lucas, ever patient, reassured him. "I know it's tough at the beginning, Peter, but remember, there's a unique satisfaction that comes from honest work, something that easy money can never provide." Sophia, on the other hand, began to find new purpose and joy in her work. "I never realized how much I would enjoy creating marketing campaigns and seeing the results," she said excitedly during a team meeting. As time went on, both Peter and Sophia began to understand and appreciate the value of hard work and integrity. They grew more humble and dedicated, slowly earning the respect of their colleagues. "Peter, you're doing great," praised a supervisor one day. "Your organizational skills have improved our workflow." Sophia, too, received praise for her innovative ideas. "Your last campaign was a huge success, Sophia." "Well done," Lucas said, beaming with pride. The family, once fractured by greed and jealousy, found a new balance. Sunday dinners became a time of laughter and genuine connection, a far cry from the tense gatherings of the past. "I'm proud of both of you," Lucas said one evening, raising his glass in a toast. "Mom would be so happy to see how we've grown together." Peter and Sophia, their eyes shining with gratitude, responded in unison, "Thank you, Lucas. You've taught us the true value of life." Lucas continued to inspire those around him with his generosity and wisdom, while Peter and Sophia, now more humble and grounded, rebuilt their lives with dignity and mutual respect. Together, they honored Beatrice's legacy, turning the inheritance into a symbol of unity, growth, and the enduring power of family. As we wrap up this story, I want to take a moment to ask you, our valued audience, what have you learned from this tale of family, redemption, and the true meaning of integrity? What's one lesson you'll take with you and put into practice in your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means the world to us, and we look forward to bringing you more inspiring stories. See you next time.